Welcome to the Spa Girls podcast, the self-publishing podcast for authors. You're in the right place for the best writing, marketing, and publishing advice, plus interviews with industry experts and best-selling authors. I'm Cheryl Phipps.
I'm Wendy Vella.
And I'm Trudy J. And this week we have Tara Cremin from Kobo. Hello.
Hello,
Hi, Tara. Welcome back.
Hi, thanks for having me back. Always a pleasure to chat.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Did I say your surname right? I suddenly went, oh no, maybe I said it
Cremin.
wrong.
Cremin, it's all the same, but yeah.
Good work.
She answers to anything.
She answers to.
I just have a different accent to everyone, right? So it doesn't matter.
So I'm going to really quickly read your bio, and then we're going to get straight into talking all about Kobo and some of the cool new things that have been happening down your or up your way from us, down here in New Zealand. Anyway, Tara Cremin is the director of Kobo Writing Life, Kobo's premier self-publishing platform, where she combines her passion for books with over a decade of expertise in indie publishing. As a dedicated advocate for independent authors, Tara works tirelessly to ensure KWL remains the most intuitive and author-friendly platform in the industry. She leads a team of enthusiastic book lovers who are deeply engaged in the indie publishing community, always striving to help authors expand their reach and connect with new readers worldwide. In addition to her work behind the scenes, Tara regularly hosts live events featuring authors and industry experts, fostering conversations that inspire and inform the writing community. She's also a familiar voice on the Kobo Writing Life podcast, where she shares insights and interviews with leaders in the publishing world. Welcome.
Sorry, I give you a real mouthful.
I was trying to read it slowly so I didn't trip over stuff, but sometimes I'm. So last time we talked was in 2022, and then before that again was in 2019. So it's been a while. It's great to have you here back with us, though. It's really exciting. We love Kobo. We love how enthusiastic you guys are about helping authors and being a part of that community. So thanks for that.
They have a good help desk too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which isn't always the case.
Others may not. So Tara, what's been happening since 2022, since we had you last on the podcast? What's been going on?
I can't believe it was that long ago. So much has been happening at Kobo. We've been so busy. And when I start to think about what's kind of been mainly our biggest things last year were that we launched, and I'll hold it up if that's okay, our very first color e-readers. And maybe this is not the best cover to demonstrate the color. But I'm chatting to Zio next week, which is why I was starting to read this book. But we launched 2 color e-readers, which and they were received like really, really well. It has sort of outdone all of our expectations to see that. So we're really trying to maintain our innovation in the e-reading space. Something that's different about these is that, there's a little pen where you can mark up your books. These are all waterproof, which is great because I am a spiller, but you can also read in the bath. And it is ebooks, audiobooks, and like note taking and things like that.
Wow.
And
so does that
still have...
Because it's color, does that mean that you kind of, with the special editions and everything that everyone's really excited about at the moment, does that mean that people are on the inside of the books are actually doing beautiful color illustrations and things like that?
Yeah. And the illustrations really come up. I should have really prepped a better example than this, but yes, it does. And you even get to choose when you're highlighting, you can choose the color that you want to highlight in. You can kind of like do your little doodles and stuff. So it's been really great to see just how things pop a little bit more in color. And especially because we'll be talking a little bit about like marketing and sorry, now I'm doing this while we're chatting, but how our store really looks awesome when there's like color books. So people's book covers like look really great when you're browsing on your e-reading device. So yeah, I think sometimes people underestimate that, an e-reader is just this block that its only purpose is to read books, which is true. We like to really think about it as like, it's your offline experience to really focus on reading. But there's so many great innovations that happen every year. And we put out new devices every year. And it was just last year was our particularly biggest innovations with adding the color to the roster.
And I love that you can do audio on it as well. That's really cool.
Yeah,
that is cool.
It doesn't have a speaker, but you connect to like any Bluetooth like headphones or speakers or anything yourself. But yeah, so everything is all in one place.
Wow,
which is really cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And are they available around the world? Is this something we can get in
Yeah,
New Zealand?
yeah. So yeah, they're definitely they're available in like partner sites that we have, but also on Kobo.com. We ship globally. I want to double check this before I say it, but I'm pretty sure it's free shipping globally, or if it's not. But anyways, we ship devices anywhere around the world at Kobo.com if you're looking at the device store there.
Okay, that's awesome.
Cool.
Because that's one thing that Kobo does definitely do differently than a lot of the other
Yeah.
platforms. You've got the devices and you're continually updating and innovating in that space. So that's really cool. Yeah.
Confirmed free shipping on all orders.
Okay.
So
Oh, wow.
Confirmed.
Oh,
Nice.
wow.
Nice work.
And of,
yeah.
and of course, they take any generic EPUB, don't they? So, you know,
Yeah, and some of our newer ones have, so we have integration with, we've always had Pocket, which like you can download articles and read them on your device. And then with the note taking, we had Dropbox integration. So you can actually like you can kind of, not, I was going to say sideload, but it's kind of a bit more than that because it's easy to drop the files in. And this one also has a Google Drive integration. So I've used that actually at RAM where I met you guys most recently. I was giving a talk and I had my notes that I had pulled in from the Google Drive. So I'm able to like read my notes from my Kobo
nice.
itself and
That's so
actually
cool.
edit and mark as I'm kind of adjusting on the fly.
Yeah.
So it's cool to be able
that's
to,
very
we try
cool.
and keep it like open and have people embrace it. And then also one thing I didn't mention is that there's Overdrive integration as well as a long-term partner of ours. So you can access your library. I know in New Zealand, the Overdrive is used quite a lot. So you're able to access that through the devices as well.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, see, that's awesome. That's so much going on there. That's good. So
And
as
that's
authors,
kind of on the Kobo.com device side. So then if I like take this hat on and put my indie hat on the Kobo Writing Life side, I guess the biggest changes have been since 2022, the expansion of Kobo Plus getting rolled out kind of, we've been very rapidly expanding it. It's in 21 territories right now. We have some more planned this year. I can't quite say where, but we'll kind of continue some rapid expansion. So for authors, this has been an awesome way of like just reaching a whole new audience. Like people are kind of willing to like try books when it's in the subscription model. It's non-exclusive through Kobo Writing Life. You can choose the geos that you want to participate in. You can remove your books at any time. Like we really try to design it to give authors as much control as possible. Listened to a lot of feedback when it was first rolled out. So yeah, that's been something that's been very different. And we'll talk about this a little bit, but it presents an interesting challenge in discoverability for authors. So we've been really trying to work on like how can we work with authors to really spotlight titles, especially when you have this catalog where you can kind of add as many books as you want. And it's a little bit different to, you're discounting your book or promoting anything. The discoverability challenge has been something that we've been kind of rolling out new things to tackle in the past year or so.
Because the difference there is so you either have your book on sale at a certain price and sometimes you can lower the price, but when you're in the Kobo Plus program, they're paying a subscription. And so the book is never on sale as such, right? So that's what you're
Exactly. So
talking
they can
about with
kind
the
of just
discovery
add
page.
it to their library, So there's how you incentivize the reader is different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so how do you incentivize them? Like, is it incentivization or is it just putting things in front of them?
I think it's curation. I think it is. It's curation, and you can maybe incentivize in like kind of thinking outside the box ways with like different bundles and box sets can be something that can really work. Leaning really into tropes, I think, is something that helps. Like as we're picking our different genre areas. But yeah, we've been trying to like see what we can do with highlighting. We're calling them promotions, but I'm trying to not call them promotions because that kind of implies that there's some sort of sale. But we have on our promotions tool, there's like list features so you can pay to have your book featured in this specific list. And there's 6 books a week. And the reason it's 6 is just because that's how many fit in the carousel. And we want to make sure that your books are being seen. And what makes this promotion a little bit different to some of the things that we've done before is that it's featured within the e-reading device. So that's kind of important when people are browsing and they're adding books that it's really easy to access. and it's on the store as well. It's in a bunch of different territories. But what's cool about it is that once the week is up, we're not removing your book. We're actually just moving it further down the line. So when people are scrolling this carousel for a while, they can kind of browse and go through. So that's been something that we've been doing that's new and we think is quite interesting and we've seen it sort of be quite positive
Yeah.
with authors that apply.
That's really cool. So what's
Yeah.
visible when they see that? Is there a blurb or is it the image or like how much
It's
can
the
they?
image of the book and the kind of like add to cart button, and they can always click through to the product page to see the blurb, but it's mostly just the carousel is the title and the cover. So
Yeah.
having your great covers and then knowing that it's on the device that they can see your color cover too. I think it's so important.
Yeah.
So that's been really exciting to sort of play around with it and also trying to target. So like the promo goes out to our main English territories, which are like Canada, the US, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. But as Kobo Plus is expanding, we are finding that there's like strong English readership in other places. So one other place that we're testing out a lot of this promo is in the Nordic countries where we've launched. So in Sweden, Finland, Denmark, and which one am I missing? Norway.
Norway.
Yeah.
I got it. In those 4 countries, it's also available to readers there because there's sort of an appetite for English content too. So we're kind of seeing people having readers in new spaces that they may not have been able to access before.
That's really cool
Yeah,
too.
that
Yeah.
is cool.
Yeah.
So and with that, so the cover is really important. I want to just reiterate that, like if that's and also so there's a level of curation that's going on, I guess. Like you're looking at who's applying and saying, well, this cover is awesome, and we're looking at this book and seeing what it's about versus that book saying maybe the cover's not going to appeal to as many people. So this is something.
Totally. Yeah, it is. It's like human curated, this list as well. Yeah, it is. We are judging books by their cover, unfortunately. I mean, we're definitely looking at when authors are applying, we're looking at other things. We're looking at the genre and like your blurb as well. But yes, the cover is such an important seller that's something that you got to have a good cover. And it's interesting to see the different trends and stuff. But yeah, you gotta have a good cover.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about a digital website, your book is so little on this website, so it really has to try and stand out.
Do you have any advice
That's so
around that
true.
or anything that you've seen that's or is it
With
just look
covers?
at what's going on in your genre?
I mean, I would recommend, I mean, you guys probably have more thorough advice than I would, but I definitely would say look and see what people are doing within your genre. If you have somebody that's making your covers that's really good, I feel like that you probably want to like stay working with them because a good designer is so important. You can, yeah, I would definitely like see your comparable authors. I do hear that sometimes the authors that are similar to you are not the same on every platform. So if you're a wide author, it might be worth looking at like what kind of similar books are on Kobo. Oh, maybe I'll look at Barnes and Noble, like what kind of similar books are there, and then looking at Amazon, etc. And that will give you a feel for like the genre in general. But yeah, and yeah, I think that's sort of the best advice. It really depends on the book itself and just having a great designer.
I think that is good advice. And actually, as an author, when I'm looking at doing promotions, we get solicited by so many little companies, especially wanting you to promote your book. And I would give all of them a go, except I will look to see what they're promoting. And if the covers are not professional, then I usually won't go with that company.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you that the covers are just so important.
And we do book. I mean, as much as we're not supposed to judge a book by its cover,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
we kind of do, right? Because there's so many options out there, and you've got to like filter it out somehow. And if the first place you can filter is the cover, there's still gonna be lots of different
and you don't have
options.
to remake the wheel. Like I feel like there's like your genres have covers that readers kind of expect, So if you're doing something that's different from what other people are doing, it might actually be a bit of a hindrance to you, So if your brand is just having like a really strong couple on the cover with like font that's like legible and has your then keep doing that. Like that's probably going to be the best thing for that series or the story that you're telling there.
Keep it consistent.
That's awesome. So we've sort of we've moved into talking about the promotions. So let's maybe stay there for a minute, and talk about, um, there's several kinds of promotions that you can do with on Kobo. And I know there's ones that are just a certain price, and then there's ones that are percentage. And now obviously there's these new ones. So can you just talk about that and kind of break it down for people?
Sure. So if
Yeah.
you're publishing through Kobo Writing Life, one of the perks is that you get access to our promotions tab. So you might not see this if you've just created your account. You just have to ask us to enable it for you, and we'll do that. Part of it is because we're primarily focusing on English promotions, although we have added a translation piece that I'll talk about. But it's just to kind of curate the people that are applying to promotions in some way. But we're happy to add this for you. So in the promotions tab, you'll see certain things that are available. And one thing, I don't know if we were doing this back in 2022, but we do have an email that goes out that you can sign up for to get once a month. We send an email that tells you all of the promotions that will be in the tab and the dates that you can expect them. So this is a way to try and prevent authors from just like refreshing the page over and over or not really knowing what promos are coming up. It's also a good way to see you're kind of like, oh, actually, nothing really fits me this month. I'll try next month. And maybe there's something that's working out with whatever marketing strategy that I'm focusing on right now. So you could sign up to receive that. So some of the promos are upfront cost. So it goes from like $5, which I think is like for your book to be featured on the free page. And then our most expensive one is $100, which is the daily deal, which we get like 3 a month, where it's kind of spotlighted on like a main page on Kobo. But we do try and keep the pricing somewhat realistic. Not realistic is the wrong word, but somewhat fair. I never really want to charge for something if you're not going to make your money back. And so if you're new to Kobo, I definitely would say maybe try out the percentage off promotions. So when you're applying for those, it's instead of it's always 10%. We don't really like play around with the percentage that's there. So if your books are receiving 70%, if you participate in these types of promotions, you'd actually earn 60% instead. But the beauty of that as well is that when you're new to Kobo, you're not paying upfront for something, and you're kind of just giving away that little 10% as you're building your audience. So I'd encourage people to kind of focus on those ones first and kind of build a little bit of a readership before kind of like immediately trying to throw $100 at something, because you just kind of want us to build up the audience. So some of the newer ones that are there, so you'll always see the free page is like one of our most popular pages. It's the free ebooks. And this doesn't have to be perma-free. I think sometimes there's a misconception about like my free book is free now forever. It can be something if you're only free for a week, or maybe you have a book bub and you're trying to balance it. So a lot of people will apply for free promotions to counter the book bub as well. So that's I definitely would recommend doing it. So we have different carousels, and we have editors picks. So you can apply to have the kind of like main feature or to be part of the 6 books within the carousel. And they're different genres. We added one last year that's like a book that's it's new to Kobo. So if it's the first time this book has kind of been featured on Kobo, that can be an interesting thing. Our most popular one by far is the free first in series. Like that's top of our list, and it gets the most people that apply. And we also have diverse reads that we don't charge for, and we update this on a weekly basis of just like a place of spotlighting like diverse stories as well. So we wanted to kind of give space for those within this page. So that's something that's very successful for free titles. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a perma-free. It could just be a timed piece. And then in addition to this, you'll see kind of a French translation available on the promo tab. So that's new. Kobo is such a global company. That's what we hear a lot from authors, where if they're selling widely, like Kobo is where they're kind of maybe reaching the more countries. So a lot of people use it for their translated works, and France being an area that we're particularly strong in. So we have my colleague Lara, who's working out of Paris, and she's curating this. So if you have books that are in French, you can apply to be featured in different opportunities there as well. So that's something that you'll see. And then the newest ones that we added were what I was talking about, the Kobo Plus promotion. So those are where you would pay to have your book in those carousels. And then you'll also see a lot of seasonal stuff. So there will be, Mother's Day, New Year's books, or any of the good, like Black Friday, all of that good stuff. It's all available in the tab as well.
That's really cool. And so how often are they changing over? Like, is it something you look at every week or every month
Yeah.
or every
Every
week?
week at least they're sort of changing. Yeah, I would say every week and then some of them are kind of like monthly. A lot of the promos are like month-long run ones, but every week. And we're actually playing around with doing our audio promos in the tab where you can't apply with your book through it, but you can email us a spreadsheet. You can kind of do it through the tab, so it's easy. And the same with we do run promotions for Overdrive a couple of times a year. So those we're going to start adding those to the tab as well. So it's all sort of in one place, where it'll just be you can use the tab to like easily email us your book.
Yeah. And they're all human curated, so there's someone looking at them and deciding. Are they all kind of that same, like mostly it's the cover that's shown, or are there ones that kind of have some of the text going on when the customer sees it?
It's mostly cover focus, and then if the customer clicks through to the product page, they can see more. It depends on how we curate the page. So a lot of the time, I think our copy team have a lot of fun with Kobo Writing Life content because they get to be really tongue in cheek with some of the banners. So when the promotions are featured in emails, there's, like a fun banner where people can click through, and then it goes to a landing page that has carousels that are curated. So we're usually dividing these up by like trope or by like some sort of theme. So that'll be kind of where there's a little bit of fun content
Yeah,
available.
that's
Yeah.
cool. And then you mentioned that the other kind of thing that's happening is the focus, or the indie focus, that there's some promotions and things going on that are indie focused. Am I right about that?
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about this offline a little bit. It's been interesting. I was trying to think about like the changes in how we're doing things with Kobo Writing Life, and we've noticed definitely a shift of so I started back in 2012, which seems like a million years ago. But there was a very deliberate decision made to not segregate indie books within the Kobo store, because at the beginning of like my experience working on indies, there was still a lot of stigma. I know it does exist to a certain extent now, but I think it's certainly very different. Where sometimes it might be people might think in a different way about a book that is independently produced versus one that is trad. So the Kobo store has always sort of been on purpose, like agnostic to how the book is published. Like you can't really tell unless you're like a fan that is following like a publisher or an imprint or something like that, but that was very much on purpose. But what we've noticed with kind of like the rise of TikTok and things like that is and I think as well with the rise of people following authors directly, is that readers are sort of more in tune with books that are kind of maybe being indie produced, and there's more of a feeling of wanting to support authors directly where they can. So one thing that we've been doing to sort of leverage this new I don't want to say like new space, it's not like a new idea, but we have new releases from indie authors, this page that we're curating, and we're actually curating this through the new release form. So if you have releases that are coming up, or if you know when your releases are for the year, you can email us, and there's a form available. I actually think it might be on our help center. And we use it to curate this list of genres, and it's just a place like where we can see like new romance books by indies, new mystery and suspense by indies, like sci-fi and things like that. So we're testing out, kind of seeing what traction this can get, because it's it's really good for trying to search rank at the moment, because we've noticed people searching more for like indie books in particular.
That's cool. It's really good to know.
That is really cool. I'm really excited about that. So the other thing that it occurs to me, this is something someone said to me recently, that readers now know more about the tropes like they never used to. So back in 2012, when you started, did you talk about the tropes as much as we do now, or is that a thing, or is it?
No, I don't. I certainly didn't.
Yeah.
I feel like I get a great trope education from my team. They're like
Mm.
so heavily invested. And I've chatted to, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jennifer Hilt. She has written the Trope Thesaurus,
Mm.
and she has like a trope thesaurus for romance, and she's had one for horror. And like we've talked to her a few times, and she's actually doing a trope con online soon, where it's just like all about tropes. So it seems to be a really, it's kind of like a buzzy way of talking about books at the moment, which is really funny because some the tropes are ultimately timeless.
Yeah.
So they've always
Yeah.
existed, in different forms. But I don't know if people have been as aware, or maybe it's just a result of category expansion, that it's maybe then easier to just talk about tropes as
Yeah.
the kind of categories keep
I think
growing.
TikTok's very trope heavy and things like that,
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think it's becoming more and more. You need to know the tropes when you go and. So I'd say
Yeah.
it's probably more and more.
That
What are your
TikTok, hey?
favorite, what are your favorite tropes?
Trudy's enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
don't like friends to lovers.
I
Cannot
don't
read
mind Friends to Lovers.
friends to lovers
I've written
books.
Friends to Lovers.
Yeah. Cannot write it, cannot read it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Wendy,
yeah.
what's yours?
I don't know that I have. If I quite like Grumpy Sunshine.
Oh, I like that too.
Close
Yeah.
proximity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
close proximity.
Yeah.
Single dad, single mum, brother's best friend, any of those really.
Yeah.
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 Ah, so fun. But it's just funny that authors, I feel like, have always talked about tropes, but now we've
Yeah.
got readers talking about it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
understanding what we mean. And so you can use them in your blurbs and
Yeah.
Yeah.
things like that a bit
Yeah.
more. Maybe
Yeah.
that yeah. And I think a lot of what we were talking about in terms of promotion and stuff on Kobo's comes back again to your blurbs. And I've been trying to get you to say, oh yeah, blurbs are used in our promotions, but apparently they're not. But people can still click to the page.
They're used in how we're picking the books, like for
There you
sure.
go.
Like
Mm.
yes. And I think it all helps with your ranking. And like if you're thinking about like even outside of the platforms, like how you want your books to rank on Google and stuff, like your blurbs are so important for that. So I definitely would,
Mm.
you have to optimize them so they're searchable.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
one thing you said earlier that I just want to clarify how it works is you talk about translations. So, with does so if someone's reading their Kobo in France, is there an English one and a French one, or is it just all there and you just have to all the same platform and you just see whether it's in French or in English? How does that work?
It's tailored to the reader's preference. So if you're selecting your primary language is English, then you'll see English content.
Yeah.
But for example, Quebec in Canada is French and English speaking. It's like primarily French. So we would show both. So in France, it would be probably French content first, but if me as like an English reader and I'm in France on the French store, I would see English content first as well. So we're always trying to curate the store to that reader and serve them what they're looking for, because ultimately that's we're always trying to get just the next book in front of the reader that they want to keep them reading for as long as they can.
So if I'm primarily English speaker, but I want to have a go at reading something in French, it's pretty easy to find.
Yeah, you can, there's a drop down where you can change your language, or you can browse the content pretty easy.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's cool. I was just curious about that. I hadn't come across that before. So, is there anything else about promos that you think that we should talk about, or anything that we want to?
Yeah, I think one thing to keep in mind is that we love hearing from authors, and a lot of the promotions that we've run that have been the most successful have come from authors, because you guys know your books inside out. It comes down to what we were saying about the tropes, right? Those probably came from author suggestions. So what we've been doing at the moment is kind of collaborating with indie authors on discoverability promotions for Kobo Plus. So there's one at a romance one that's kind of particularly popular that formerly was called YOLO with Kobo. I think we're moving away. We're calling it kind of like the Kobo Plus Romance Binge or something like that. Apologies, I don't have the name in front of it, but it's basically where authors that want to participate can provide a book or two in specific genres, and then we work to curate a page, and on the same day the authors kind of like will email out their list or like let their readers know that here's this like all of the books that you can get in these certain genres and tropes. And on the Kobo side, we have the page that's available, and we're also emailing it to our base. So we're really trying to do a push of because like we were saying, it can become with Kobo Plus, it's so easy to see books and add books to your category, but it might be hard to find what you're looking for. So we're trying to help people find the books that they're looking for. So there's this one for romance. We've been doing like a fantasy one. We've done seasonal ones as well. So we're definitely open to collaborate on any ideas that you have for promos. We're willing to test them out.
So how does that work? Is that something where an author says, hey, look, I've got this group of romance authors and we're wanting to do this cross promotion together. Can you help us? Or is this something where a single author is coming to you and saying, hey, I want to cross promote with someone, who do you suggest? Or, is there a way to get into this if you're not
Either
currently...
way, I mean, this one, I mean, I feel like she won't mind me saying that it's Laramie Briscoe's organizing this one, the romance specific one, and she does a call out. I know sometimes on the Wide for the Win Facebook page, I'll see that there'll be a call out there because I think there is a group for this promo specifically.
There is.
So yeah, you can participate in that piece. And Laramie reached out to me and said I had an idea for this promo, and we went with it that way, and she really helps organize it. So I think because you know more, or like, work more closely with authors that are writing in similar genres as you and things like that. So if you have a group that, we're all writing this specific niche, we'd love to kind of highlight this. We're definitely open to see what space we can do to kind of help with that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I see
very.
that on BookFunnel, we've got authors there doing promos straight to Kobo. Have you got any, not data, but any information about how that works? Because it's kind of the same thing, isn't it? But instead of going through you, they've gone through BookFunnel to do it.
Yeah, I don't, but
Mm.
I feel like BookFunnel would be able to give you that
Mm.
data.
Okay.
Yeah.
We definitely could look into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of feel people wouldn't keep still doing it if it didn't work.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
It's
So
kind of like how, like, like newsletter swaps and things like that. It's a
Yes.
similar audience, and it's the same idea ultimately
Mm.
with these promos is this
Yes.
mass collaboration, like at this different scale. So yeah, that's something that we've been testing out, especially with the Kobo Plus piece being like the new kind of readership. And
Mhm.
something that's maybe of interest is that a lot of the time with Kobo Plus, we're noticing a big spike in kind of backlist titles being read when I'm kind of looking at like what's floating to the top of our readership there. It really is a great way of giving new life to like a series that maybe you're not putting a lot of marketing effort behind at the moment, So maybe you have a series back from 2017 and like it could reach a new audience through this. So that's something to consider as well. It doesn't have to be
Especially
your
with the
newest book always.
No, and especially with the percentage one, because you're actually not losing any money. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously your
Yeah.
percentage goes down, but there's no upfront costs. So it is what it is, how many books sell, and you can promote that on your pages or something like that in your newsletter to help it boost it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point, Cher. Like if
Mm.
you are wanting to look at more sales on Kobo, for example, make sure that you are reminding your newsletter about it, and you do
Yeah.
have it on your, at the bottom of the newsletter, or you have it on all your socials, or in all those places. Make sure that you are putting a link to Kobo and your books on Kobo, because that's how we're
Yeah.
getting it out there and making more sales on all the platforms.
Yeah. And on our help center, we actually have assets that like social assets that you could use, like Read My Book in Kobo Plus. We just updated them recently, actually. So you can download those and they're images where you can kind of add your cover to it. And there's a couple of different formats and they're tailored for the specific social channels. Although Instagram just changed to that rectangle, so I don't know if they're quite
They're
rectangular.
always changing the shape. It drives me
I
mental.
know.
No, right.
I hate it.
Just when you get it right, everything's like they move the playing field again, and you're like, oh, gotta get onto that again.
Okay, but that's
But I
really
think
helpful.
they'll just crop it. It should still work. But those are available where you can be like read my books on Kobo.
That's awesome. And that's the kind of thing you can set up on like just to go out automatically and just every now and again come up on your socials. That's awesome to know. The other thing we wanted to talk about was box sets. So box sets have always been really popular on Kobo. That's always been the advice I've been given. So can you just talk about it, and is that still the case, and how do we kind of promote them?
Yeah, absolutely. They're still beloved by our readers. They definitely see them as a way, and I think Kobo Plus proves the point of. Definitely see them floating to the top of the top selling or top read books in Kobo Plus. Part of that is because they're longer. Kobo Plus is calculated by minutes read, so obviously box sets have more minutes, which is why they would float to the top. But I think it makes sense as well that readers tend to see it as a convenient way of having all of your books in one place rather than necessarily, grabbing books 1 to 5 individually. They just like to have the one piece. So I would say if you're making a box set, you always want to make sure that your table of content is like super easy to navigate through, especially if they are larger. And we have authors that really take advantage of the fact with the pricing that if you price over $9.99, there's no higher price cap. So you're always receiving 70% on your book if it's over $2.99. So we're not going to change the rates of that depending on your pricing at all. So for box sets, we have some authors that do Kobo specific super duper box sets that are like these 12 book series that are $50 and they're seeing success with that. Exactly. And you're earning 70% on that piece, which is something that you could really take advantage of.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like the idea of kind of someone going and spending $50 all at once on all your books is kind of like, it blows my mind a little bit. I'm so used to kind of thinking of it as a smaller price point. So that's really cool. Do you think there's a different mindset on Kobo, like the Kobo readers to other platforms, or?
Maybe. I mean, I'm so hyper focused on Kobo. I feel like I would be biased in saying anything. But potentially. And like those people are probably your super fans as well. They're going to be spending that little bit more. Maybe they're completionists. They want to have every sort of version of the series. So it could be any number of
I feel like
reasons.
it's not a new reader buying $50 worth of your books, is it? Like it has to be someone who's got at least some awareness of your reading.
Oh, I bought the first one for free and then thought,
actually, I'll buy
exactly.
Great reviews.
Great reviews. I'm going to get the rest of those.
Excellent cover.
Word of mouth.
Going right in there.
All the things,
All
right?
the
Like, all the stuff we know. Yeah, that's cool. And actually there's a promo for box sets as well that you've recently started. Am I right?
Yeah, we recently added one specifically for Kobo Plus box set. So this is brand new. So it's again, it's the same one as I was talking about, like the discoverability piece, where we're picking 6 box sets a week and we're updating that. We're not removing them. So like I said, it just moves further down the line. So it's just something that we're testing out with readers. And we just added that recently. But we also do kind of a la carte promotions as well for box sets. So you'll see them pretty regularly on the tool, like every other month-ish. So it could be a different form of we do a lot of buy more, save mores, which would be kind of, I always say this the wrong way, like buy 3 for the price of 2. I always say it the other way around. So those sort of like where you're buying more, you're saving more, or 2 for 1 sort of pricing. But we're testing out to try and make sure that we're not fatiguing any customers with them seeing the same types of promotions over and over again. So you might see ones that are sort of like all of these box sets are $5.99 and under. So there might be more specific price points or bundling. So 2 books for $9 and things like that. So it's just little changes in the psychology of the promotion can be hugely impactful on the readers, especially if they're kind of used to certain types of things. So you can definitely see box sets for like a la carte type of promotions and for Kobo Plus on the promo tab pretty regularly.
No, that's really
You
cool.
probably have different criteria for each promotion each time you're running it. But how we talk about maybe not promoting a book in a big way, like more than say once every 3 months. Would that be right? Like every 90 days, or do you not think it matters with Kobo?
I think I wouldn't be applying the same book over and over again just because it's quite competitive and we only have a certain amount of slots. So if you're yeah, if you've kind of like promoted one, I think the 90-day rule is probably good advice for that. It's not that we wouldn't take it, it's probably just that we maybe want to give another author the opportunity because your book was featured already. So I think that's probably a good rule of thumb. I do like to say, the worst case scenario, you're putting your book in front of the right people anyway. So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Just apply
Cool.
and see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was going to say that you're changing up the promos and you're looking at different ways of doing or slightly different ways of doing things, and that experimentation is actually quite a good lesson for us as indie authors too, because in the same way that you're looking at your readers and making sure that they don't get fatigued with the kind of promotions you're doing, it's the same for us. Like we should be trying to do little changes in our promotions and trying to, it doesn't have to completely reinvent the wheel or anything, but just little changes to kind of make people feel like this is something a bit different, or to appeal to a slightly different person is worthwhile. I definitely think that's one thing that you guys definitely do really, really well, is that kind of innovation and experimentation.
And well, that's the perk of working with indie authors as well, is one, like the absolute willingness to jump on a new idea, because you guys have the control. Like you're able to change your price really quickly. You're able to, redo a book cover, for instance. And I guess one thing I didn't mention about the promotions is whenever you're applying, there is a comment box. It's like an open text field where you can kind of give us a little bit more information about your book. So something, first time this book's on Kobo is really helpful to know. I've just rebranded this whole series. It's my first time promoting it. Like something like that is helpful. Like sometimes we get jokes which are just amusing, and it always helps when you're making people laugh. But really using that, or letting us know about your BookBub, any additional marketing you're doing on your side, it's helpful for us to know because, like I said, it's quite competitive. So it just helps us narrow down any information we have is just helpful.
Yeah, well, that sounds cool. Yeah, I was wondering about that comments box. I was applying for a promo the other day, and I would have done a joke if I'd thought of that. I was like, "Hi, here I am. Nice to know you." Anyway, I didn't. I didn't
We
put
get a
that
lot
in.
of dad jokes. There was an author told us once that she uses ChatGPT just to create jokes for promotions for Kobo. I was like, I love the innovation. That's
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
Yes.
The innovation is there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit quickly about pricing on Kobo and how some tips, anything around that you can give us that we should be thinking of or looking out for?
Yeah, so when you're publishing through Kobo, you can set the price in 15 currencies. Your main price will default to kind of wherever you're based. So like mine would be Canadian dollars, yours would be the New Zealand dollars. So I definitely would say I would take the time to round your price in each currency. I wish our system did that automatically for you. It's on my to-do list or my to-do list, my wish list. I wish I could do it. But we don't. So I would say definitely take the time to round up the currencies. We do give you suggestions within the tool. If you're not, if you're kind of like time constrained, I would say to at least have the currencies in like Canadian dollar, US dollar, Great British pounds, euro, and then the Australia and New Zealand dollar. So those sort of main ones would be at least. It does depend on your book, though. One of my colleagues made a great point recently. So if you have a French translation, for instance, you do want to make sure that you're having your euro price, but you also want to consider your Swiss franc price. Like sometimes people forget to optimize that. And what I mean is just really make sure you're ending in a nice 99 price point, or as consumers, we're really kind of trained to respond well for that. If you're letting your book just auto convert, it might look like 673, and then a customer might be like, "That's a bit weird. I don't know why it's priced that way,"
Yeah.
So that's why we would recommend to definitely kind of pretty up your pricing wherever possible. And I guess something that's worthwhile considering as well, if you've been publishing for a little while and you haven't actually taken a look at your prices recently, I would go, and maybe you're doing this when you're looking at your comparison authors on the different platforms, have a look at the pricing as well, because the price of indie indie ebooks 5 years ago versus now is not quite the same. We're seeing kind of a lot of people maybe walk their prices up a tiny bit, but I would just say really investigate to see, is your price still like competitive in the market, or is it actually below? Are you undervaluing your book because you haven't adjusted it to this sadly inflationful world that we're living in? So I definitely would say to consider that.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Good
Because we
point.
do kind of get stuck in our ways. And actually, we've all done this where we've kind of talked about it and said, oh no, should we raise our prices? Oh, they'll hate us for it. Oh, it's terrible. And it's a self-worth thing. I think it's a worthiness thing that we need to think about too. But all of us, I think, have had this experience where we've raised our prices and not a peep from anyone and no difference. And you get a slightly more money in your pocket, maybe, if it's not as big a change as maybe you feel like it's going to be before you've done it, would be my.
Yeah, and you don't have to be doing it all the time. Like maybe, I don't know, like every year or two, you just kind of review. And it depends on how many books you have as well. If you've published tons, like maybe there's that one series that you haven't thought about in a long time.
Yeah.
You should kind of maybe review it and see, how is it looking compared to everything else?
Yeah.
A good time is to reflect on prices, I think, is when you're actually doing a promotion for a series. And just looking at other series, how they're doing, especially long running series, because you can actually charge a decent amount for the newer ones out. You don't have to be constantly thinking, oh, what's the least, I have to put this book at.
No,
Different
factor in the
readers.
time. You wrote a book.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
That's like you should not be as scared to price it for its value,
Exactly.
Yeah. All these crazy thoughts that go on in our heads, and we just need to be a little bit more careful about them. So is there anything else that's new or different in Kobo that we should be looking at since the last time that we want to?
I'm sure there is that I've forgotten. I mean, we have a new dashboard which has the Kobo Plus stats as well included. They're updated on a monthly basis. I hope to get it a little bit more frequent than that in the near future. So that's something that's there. But we're kind of, we're still around and doing great and love working with indie authors. So I'm sure there's something I've forgotten. My team are screaming somewhere.
Yeah, they're like, what? Can we talk quickly about Kobo Plus in terms of that? Like we kind of we skated around it a little bit, but I still kind of want to dive a bit deeper. So if we're an indie author and I'm in Kobo Plus and it's not a matter of pricing that is going to draw people in, how do I, are there any other ways that you've seen authors kind of draw new readers in, or, aside from maybe doing the Kobo Plus promotions that we've talked about, are there other, I don't know.
Honestly, just like talking about Kobo Plus. I know a lot of our audience our authors are in the States, and the Kobo Plus pricing is extremely competitive. It's $7.99 a month for ebooks, $7.99 a month for audiobooks, and if you want to combine the read and listen, it's $9.99. So just telling people that a lot of authors are it's kind of almost an education piece of like just letting readers know there's this alternative that's really reasonably priced, full of authors you probably haven't read because you're reading in another subscription service, So I think just talking about it is pretty good and helpful.
Yeah.
Is it just as easy to download books that you get on the subscription service to other readers?
That I don't know.
Sorry.
There's an app, isn't there, for Kobo, like there is for Kindle?
Yeah, it's a free app where you can read. So you can, like, you don't have to own an e-reader. I think sometimes people think that that's an enforcement as well, but no, you can download we have an app on iOS or Android that you can download and access for free as well.
Like
so you did know. You did know.
That was actually, I read on my phone, which is really weird. But I have a big phone and I have it quite big text, so I can actually read it without glasses. Oh my God.
I know one of the things that we've done as well with the app, and because I'm an iPhone person, so maybe this exists on Android as well, but I'm not too sure. But they've done a lot around Apple Pencil, so you can actually mark up your books on your on the Kobo e-reader within it, and pick your highlight color and do a lot of the stuff that you can do here. You can do that within the app as well, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, that's cool. So there's ways to make it cool on your tablet or your whatever. I can't have I don't have a
Yeah,
pen
I
on my
can't
phone.
read on my phone though. I can't read on the phone. Just
It's too
the
small.
energy of the swiping is too
Small.
frequent.
Yeah.
It's just easy. I carry it around. I'm like in a line somewhere and I'm going, oh, I just quickly read my book for a bit, and it's, yeah.
But I listen to audiobooks through the Kobo app on my phone. So
Yeah.
There you go.
I listen to
Yeah.
them on my phone too. So and that's the technology, right? Like that's the changes and things. And things are changing around. Like, so for example, I'd stopped buying print books for a long time. And because of TikTok, we've mentioned TikTok 3 times now. So I think we should be
it's
getting
going to
some
show
kind
up
of
behind us.
Yeah.
TikTok.
I've started buying print books again. So, like our habits change based on things around, and it's always changing. Like, I don't think you can say this is the way it's going to be forever for anything that we're doing. So
no, that's like, I know that can be challenging, but that's also like one of the most exciting things about working in this space is that things don't stay the same, things are always evolving. It's fun.
Exactly.
Well, the world changes, but individual people's situation changes. So,
as we age too, things change,
exactly.
Exactly.
So, okay, I think we're kind of nearing the end of our interview here with you. Thank you so much. But have you got any kind of last piece of genius advice for all of our listeners to take away?
Like, she hasn't just given us 45 minutes of genius advice. Can you give us another one, please?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to reach out, if anything has sort of spoken to you, or if there is you have a genius advice piece of promotion idea that you want to send forward, if you email writinglife@kobo.com, and if you put Tara anywhere in the email, that comes right to me. So that's maybe like a little tip where you can kind of reach me directly. And I just think kind of keep considering, if you're publishing widely, to just really consider like Kobo is one of the main platforms, and to not be scared of the subscription, because Kobo Plus really has just really increased author earnings. Can't state that enough.
Okay. Yeah.
Good to know.
People do like subscriptions, don't they? They really do like their subscriptions. Yeah, that's awesome.
They really do.
Well, thank you so much for that, Tara. That's really generous, like offering that kind of the ability for people to reach you like that. So, I'm sorry if you suddenly get 500 emails in your inbox when this goes up. Can send them to us. Can forward them back to us.
No, she can't.
Wendy at wendyvella.com.
Yeah.
We'll answer all of you.
You're lucky you live far away from me. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, happy to chat. Thank you so much for having me back on. I always appreciate it.
It's a pleasure as always.
No, it's fantastic. And so is that the best place for people to reach you? Obviously, the email that you just gave that I can't remember.
I think that's probably the easiest. Writinglife@kobo.com. If you're interested in creating an account, it's kobo.com/writinglife. We have the Kobo Writing Life podcast that goes out kind of on a weekly cadence now, where you can find lots of good interviews and tips. And then we also have our blog at kobowritinglife.com.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. Those are all.
I believe you've got some special guests coming up sometime soon too.
Yeah, some amazing people.
Who would that be?
We're doing a podcast swap, so I have some great guests coming up soon.
Watch the space.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you can find us on the socials, except TikTok actually, which we haven't quite done yet. But we're on Threads, has a thriving indie community, so we are active there, and Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter still exists, but it's not where we're putting a lot of energy.
Understandably.
Fantastic.
And you can find us at spargirlspodcast.com. And come and join us in our Facebook group, and you can buy us a coffee on Patreon, but basically anywhere you can find us, spargirlspodcast.com.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Wendy. And thank you to all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Spar Girls podcast. We loved having you all here with us today, and we'll be back again next week with another episode. But for now, farewell.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.